With Veracity coming close to completing its cup and handle pattern, what lies next for this cryptocurrency? In this video, we're going to dive down into the charts to see exactly what's been going on with the VRA token and to see what could happen next. If you find this useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Right, with that said, done and out of the way, let's actually dive down into these charts and see exactly what's going on here with Veracity. So as you can see, we are on the weekly chart, guys, really reviewing these 5 impulsive waves to the upside overall. Now, this really did kickstart back here in March of 2020. It was a bit of a slow starter for us, and we obviously come down pretty much to a full retracement within wave 2. Okay, this is quite unusual, but again, for these newly launched projects, reasonable amounts of fear with a micro cap coin like this at the time. Obviously, it was a fantastic opportunity to basically buy some fantastic priced VRA. Obviously, when we get into the new year, we surged up nicely for these third impulse waves to the upside, and this kind of peaked out for us at about the 5th of April. Okay, and if we actually take all of that into consideration, we'll grab hold of our date and price range. We're going to take it from over here at the beginning of our bull run over to that peak where we had wave 3. Okay, and this just keeps it consistent with when we analyze like things like Bitcoin and Ethereum earlier in the year. But basically, Veracity here has actually moved up 24,797% in 385 days. This puts it firmly up there with some of the other fantastic projects of the portfolio that have been performing really well. Much better than things like Harmony One or VeChain, but not quite as good as things like Anchor, but it's definitely right up there. It's seriously outperformed Bitcoin because Bitcoin in the same time period only had 1,600% and Ethereum only 5,100%. So we do know that it's significantly outperformed the safer bets in the space, if you will. Obviously, from there was a pullback. Now, this pullback pretty much was in line with Bitcoin pulling down from its 65k, crashing the entire crypto market by around 86% in the case of Veracity. So some fantastic opportunities were then found again at the bottom of wave 4 here for dollar cost averaging a good position ahead of the next leg. Now, obviously, we are pushed up significantly with this 5th wave so far, and that's really what comes into the play here in this piece of analysis. What is next for Veracity? Obviously, we do have some interesting kind of price expectations based on the area of the wave 3 and wave 4. This is something that we've spoken about for quite a bit in the past across live streams, etc. If we come down to our daily, we can see, of course, that comes in that 4.236 extension at 21.3 cent. But what about the weekly? And considering how much speed we've had so far, are we actually going to go and achieve better than that? And that's where we really want to take into consideration our fib-based or trend-based fib extensions, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take 3 anchor points rather than just 2. So not just 3 and 4, but we're also going to take into consideration the second wave correction. This correction that saw us almost do a full retracement on wave 1. So we're going to actually go ahead and take the low here of our second wave, okay, just at the bottom. Then we're going to run up to the top of wave 3. We're going to pop that up there. And then we're going to do is take this down to the bottom of wave 4, okay? This then shows us moving out towards 24.3 cent. Considering we are currently trading at 6.6 cent, that's actually pretty reasonable in the space, and again, in line with the expectations that we should be having. Again, if we actually go ahead and throw on our price range or the percentage gains from our current price up to the high of 24.3, that does show 272% in gains to be had. Again, that's pretty significant and something that I think we could potentially see. But this would be, in my opinion, the top of the bull run unless something crazy happens. Again, this just looks at the historical data. If something were to happen with Veracity that actually changed some of the fundamentals or increase the amount of FOMO coming in this last leg, we could, of course, overextend above this as well. So it really depends on how risk adverse you are as to what targets you want to be looking for when it comes to maybe coming up with your exit strategies on Veracity. But for me personally, I think, yeah, 24.3, it seems pretty reasonable. A nice kind of bump on your current position here, about 211%. So you're going to be getting some pretty good gains. Considering we are late into the bull run now, that does make a lot of sense. But again, we'll be mindful that it's always usually quite important that we keep some in the tank just in case we do overextend above these areas and we want to continue in the bull run and try to time that top. If we do miss the top, however, you can, of course, do not panic sell and actually just wait for the bounce, and you'll get, pretty close back to the top, usually within 20 or so percent of where it was previously. So again, interesting kind of moves going on here on this weekly chart. Did want to kind of just highlight the kind of momentum that we've had here with Veracity moving up close now to the cup and handle, which we'll get into in a moment. And of course, showing us 24.3 cent on the chart. So when we actually jump down into our daily chart, this is where we can talk about that cup and handle that we've been talking about previously. Obviously the buy zone that was at the bottom there, we kind of spoke about that on a few live streams, and obviously up here was the 618, 702 and 786. Again, this is an area that we kind of got up to early September. We pushed through it only to have us pull back down to form our handle, and then we've obviously broken that neckline, pushed on up, found resistance a little bit here, coming in at 6.3, currently above there, looking to turn it into a support line as we head up to the completion of our cup and handle at 7.5 cent. Okay, so really close to our cup and handle completion move here, looking at 7.5 cent. Again, I think we'll be heading up towards our 1.618, which would come in at 8.6 cent. Taking a look at the stochastic, plenty of room to grow to the upside, right? So basically we had this little mini correction right here in the middle. This completely took us from overbought to oversold. Loads of room to grow now on our stochastic RSI. So I do think we're likely to find support down here on 6.3, push up, take out our 7.5, turn the 7.5 into a support as it finds resistance at 8.6, and again, then continue that growth to the upside. I don't think there's a lot stopping Verasity at this point as we continue the growth to the upside overall, setting new all-time highs and continuing on that journey to the upside. Now, based on just wave 3 and wave 4, we kind of see a more conservative kind of price expectation for Verasity here. This 4.236, as I said earlier, is 21.3 cent. And again, if you're risk adverse, this might be a good place that you want to just lock in those profits and be happy with your gains. So greed is going to be your enemy the later you get into the bull run. And again, that's where a lot of people were hurt previously, ultimately just trying to kind of get that little bit more out of the tank every single time. And unfortunately, they end up holding those bags for too long, even when it comes down. And a bit denial, obviously, after the bull run. Basically thinking that actually no, it's a fake out, we'll go back up again, etc. And it works almost like a bit of a bull trap towards the end. So it's important that we obviously acknowledge that when things do come to a bit of a close, it's going to be quite confusing for many. Many people will still call it a bull run. Some people will be calling it a bear market. And again, you don't want to be necessarily holding those bags unless you want to be a long-term holder, which is perfectly fine if that's what you want to do. Okay, but for me on the channel and Chris on the channel, obviously we're not offering financial advice, but our strategy has always been to sell on the way up. Okay, lock in those profits against some of these key levels, and then we do like to keep a little bit in the tank just in case we go above and beyond the 4.236 extension. And we're quite happy to take those into a bear market if we need to, right? If we do actually see this thing reverse all the way down, lose 80% of its value, whatever we have at the end of the bull run, we're pretty much happy with anyway, and we're happy to take that into that bear market if we need to. If not, we can actually sell it at a later stage based on several bounces, because you don't always move down in straight lines, you move down in waves, and again, there's opportunities to sell on those bounces. So it really depends on what your strategies are, but definitely be thinking about it if you haven't done so yet. Ultimately, good opportunities were had at the bottom of wave 4 here, riding this up nicely now, looking at some good interesting kind of targets to come in the next kind of few days, in my opinion, as we continue taking out this this cup and handle, complete that move, and then progress on. Now, at this point, we're going to jump over to the Evide.io dashboard and talk about the underlying value of the cryptocurrency. For those who are unfamiliar, link in the description down below, guys. Evide.io, they use artificial intelligence and machine learning to help us understand the underlying value of cryptocurrencies. And in the case here, we're taking a look at VRA. It's a B1 rating overall. Now, that's pretty neutral, pretty good. It's not top tier, as in it's not A1, A2, A3, but it's also not at the bottom tier, C1, C2, C3. So we're pretty good, just on the cusp of entering into top tier territory. As we come down, we do have additional pieces of data at our disposal. What is causing us to be a B1 rating, and are there any problems? When we come down here, we have an AMI-HUD ratio. This is an A2 rating. The A2 rating represents pretty good liquidity, right? No problems with liquidity. Second best rating in the platform can provide. So good to know that buying and selling isn't going to be a problem. As we come across to the right-hand side, though, the VRA Fear and Greed Index. This is not Bitcoin's index, by the way. This is the artificial intelligence machine learning driven Fear and Greed Index specific to the VRA token, and we have a C3 rating. So this is basically telling us that the sentiment in the market right now is incredibly fearful for VRA. And as a result of that, people might be more willing to sell than to buy VRA and Verasity. So it's important that we obviously acknowledge that potentially selling pressure is going to be heightened, and there's an opportunity in that if you choose to see so. And we actually dive down into the next metric here, the Sharpe ratio in A2. The Sharpe ratio represents your risk-reward ratio, and right now with an A2 rating, this particular ratio is indicating that we might want exposure to VRA, which is the polar opposite of the sentiment right now. So when we start seeing a fear and greed index in extreme fear and a Sharpe ratio that's up in the top tier, that basically tells me to buy that fear up because we are moving nicely to the upside. And again, we went through those charts, we have some pretty good upside coming in my opinion. So ultimately some fear that we might want to kind of take advantage of, right? As we come on down here, we have moving averages up at A2, not a problem with those, and the profitability, as I indicated in the charts, an A1 rating has outperformed Bitcoin, Ethereum, Harmony One, VeChain, and many others in the space. This is a project that has performed well, and I think it's going to continue to perform well in the latter part of this bull run. So overall, no problems with the underlying data, which is fantastic. So when we jump back to the charts here and we go down into our hourly, what can we see? We obviously had that breakout from the triangle that we were analyzing previously. Good to see a good level of support being found down here at 5.1 cent. Okay, this is an area that we're basically testing quite heavily, really getting that support level whilst also coming down within our triangular wedge. And again, we were looking to find any kind of patterns in here. It's not the right timeline for this, but basically you're looking for like ABC kind of correction waves, and then getting that break to the upside, which would normally be an impulsive kind of 5 waves to the upside, right? So right now, looking at where we are, just above that 6.3 cent, targeting out that 7.5 to complete the cup and handle. Taking a look at our stochastic just in the mid-range point, currently at 37.3, plenty of room to grow to the upside. The only issue that we have, of course, is that sentiment, right? And as we come into this, and we just expand this up a little bit, let me just make that a little bit clearer. You just expand that down there. So we can see the volumes are coming in, and they're actually working for us quite well at the moment. So basically the price pushed up here and the volume increased. We started to pull back. The volume, well, it kind of decreased, but actually was relatively flat. So it wasn't the best kind of sentiment. You can see that kind of fear coming in here. People are willing to sell right now. Now, what we need to see is basically as we have now lowered our volumes and lowered our stochastic, is we want to grow that volume whilst we grow the price, and then that'll help us take out our 7.5 cent target just at the top. So ultimately everything's kind of coming together quite nicely, but we do obviously have to be aware that this could be a bit of a battle and a bit of a challenge to come up to this 7.5 and push past it. I think we're going to find this as a major resistance blocker for us until that sentiment is resolved. Once we push up here, do expect us to kind of find a couple of taps on here before potentially turning it into a support line, and then moving up to the 1.618 at I think it was 8.3 cent. Let me just check. Let me get my numbers right for you guys. Yeah, 8.6 cents, sorry. And so we're looking to basically do that and make that move a little bit more clearer. But again, I do anticipate until that sentiment is resolved with the fear in the space, that 7.5 will be a bit of a blocker for a few days maybe before we go ahead and actually move on out of there. Overall, everything for Verasity is actually looking very, very good. Lots of progress on has been going on, and I think that's going to continue for the rest of this bull run as we target out some of those higher numbers, about 21 to 24 cent. Overall, everything's looking very good. I will leave the video there. If you have found it useful and informative, hit that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.